Alrighty, boys. So if you watched my last video, you already know exactly how I'm running my entire cold SMS system to pump in tons of booked calls every single month. But the truth is, like, if you just run that system alone, you will be faced with like 30% show up rate, a ton of bad faith calls, and your close rate will cap to around like 20 to 30% as well. Okay. And that's exactly where I was a few months ago when I initially kind of ran up this entire system until I basically built out the process here that literally warms up those cold SMS leads before they even get on the call with me, to the point where they're pre-sold, emotionally bought in, and basically ready to pay in full. All right. In September alone, that tweak made me around 80K in revenue and around 67K in cash collected. And in this video, I'm basically going to give you guys away my entire system on exactly how I pivot these cold leads into being like pre-warmed, ready to pay in full, essentially. Okay, that means the pre-call video that sells them before the call, the thank you page funnel as well that I leverage that basically makes them obsessed with working with us, and the crazy follow-up sequence as well that basically locks in insane show-up rates and conversions. Okay, but this video only makes sense if you guys have already seen this video right here, where I basically like showed you the entire cold SMS system from scratch and how you can set it up yourself. So if you haven't watched that already, just pause this video right here and go and watch that one first, and then you can come back here, okay? Because that's when, you know, it's gonna make sense. So let's dive into how we're gonna turn these cold leads into warm pre-sold clients, okay? So the truth is, like, 90% of the sale here is going to be made before they even hop on the call with you, okay? And before I kind of implemented all of the stuff that I'm going to break down to you guys right now in this video, I was basically averaging around like a 40 to 50% show up rate. So you can see my metric tracker right there a few months back. And I had a really high no-show or like canceling rate on all these leads here as well. And yeah, always faced like a ton of objections as well. And a lot of people sat there thinking like, who the fuck is this kid? All right. Like, who is this guy? Right. And it was tons of unqualified brokies as well. Tire kickers that didn't trust me. You know, you're a complete stranger. And they usually tried to lead the start of the call every single time as well by asking about my story, what led me to business, you know, all this nonsense. And I always had to prove myself to them. Okay. I wasn't the leader, you know, it was them. And they basically got pissed if I didn't answer the questions and so on, and just left the call. And yeah, it was just a mess. Okay. And all the time as well, when I looked at my calendar, I just had so many meetings booked up. Like, it was truly like quantity over quality here. Okay. And I had, you know, 10 booked calls, 10, 15 booked calls on my calendar. And I just knew that most of these people won't even show up. Okay. I'm just wasting my time and energy. All right. But after, you know, a few weeks of testing and, you know, trial and error, essentially, by trying a whole bunch of different stuff, I basically have found this system now that basically works like a charm. Okay. So it allows me to get on average like a 80 to 90% show up rate here as well. This is the month of September. You can see here we did about 80K in 80K in revenue. This is in Norwegian kroners, by the way, and about 67K in cash collected right there. About 7K in expenses. That's with the number usage and also with the setter, and around like a 90% profit margin as well. So you guys can basically see the metrics here as well for yourself. 67% closing rate as well, which is just nuts. 70% good fit rate, 83% show up rate, right? So I basically face almost zero no-shows right now, because if they can't make the call, they will literally reschedule in advance, okay? And all of these people as well, they come in with a ready to invest mindset, and they basically already know enough of my story and everything to trust me. And they also resonate with part of my story, which is like a very key thing we're gonna come back to in a minute from now, okay? And objections as well, they're basically gone. You know, there's only like a few questions here and there, and they already see the value before the call, and objections are pre-handled as well before the call, okay? And they're nurtured with tons of powerful testimonials, so it feels like a no-brainer and the exact solution for them. And yeah, all my calls are basically with qualified people, you know, not these tire kickers anymore. And they already know parts of the system at surface level, so they're pretty much pre-sold, as I mentioned. And I no longer have to actually prove myself on these calls, okay? Like, they already know everything, all right? Like, they literally know everything they need to know, all right? And that basically allows me to position myself as the price and authority and essentially lead the entire sales call the entire way. And my closing rate jumped also from 30% to 60 to 70%. Okay, so these sales calls, they're so natural to close. All right, basically jump on the call, you know, if you want to proceed or not, essentially. And yeah, almost no objections as well. All right, and that's all thanks to the workflow I built and implemented. Okay, so the first thing here that I basically started implementing is that instead of, you know, having the setter call up these leads whenever they send a positive reply or whatever, I basically just have the setter text them my Calendly booking link, or you can also text them your website. That as well work really well. And then they have to book in themselves. Okay. And, you know, before I dive into this, all right, I know there's probably a lot of you guys that's gonna have limiting beliefs, as you know, oh, they won't book in, blah blah blah, all this stuff. But if you structure everything here correctly, and if the messages you've sent them before sending the Calendly link is, you know, structured nicely, and they see the value, and, you know, it basically intrigues them, you know, they resonate, then you've done this part correctly. Okay. So basically they're gonna send the Calendly link, and then they'll basically book it themselves. All right, so this is essentially how I structure the entire Calendly thing. So the first thing I ask them is how much they're doing in monthly revenue at the moment, what they want to be making, and the biggest challenge they got, and, you know, the price of their main offer here as well. This is really, really crucial, because personally, my agency works with high ticket coaches. So I got to make sure that these people actually have like a high ticket offer. And then I also ask them like what their niche is, essentially, like who they actually work with. I personally only work with B2C coaches, not B2B. So I basically clarified that as well, have them basically type here who they're writing with. And then I ask them here as well in terms of like commitment and, you know, how ready they are to buy, essentially, you know, if they're ready to invest or not. And then I basically make them confirm that they'll show up. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Okay. That's essentially the entire booking form right there. Now I basically have all the info I need before I hop on the call with them. And now we're basically going to start with the funnel. Okay. This is just like a tiny bit of the funnel, but after people hit schedule event here, they're going to be redirected to this thank you page. Okay. And this is essentially where the entire sale is made. Okay. So it's really, really important that you guys actually like take some notes right here now, because I'm going to show you guys 2 or 3 ways that you can structure this entire thank you page. Okay. And it works really fucking well. All right. So the first way, I've basically structured it. This is like my old one. It worked really, really well. You basically say that you're booked in, but not fully confirmed yet. Complete these 3 steps, or your appointment will essentially be canceled. Okay. So the first thing is that I have them watch a pre-call VSL. Okay. This is really, really important that you have, because it's basically just going to be you who basically sell them even more on it. Okay. The entire thing, they get to hear and actually see you. And yeah, it's just really good. Okay. So have that on there. I basically have the step 1, watch that video before the call. And then I make them confirm the slot on their Google Calendar as well. And then I basically tell them to, you know, look at all the case studies and everything. Okay. So basically dump all the testimonials, gather literally everything, written testimonials. You can also go on brand push as well to basically pay for like news articles about your agency. And yeah, that just increases the authority like crazy as well. So definitely do that. It was like $300 or something, but really, really worth it. And yeah, put some screenshots, client interviews, literally everything. And that's like one type of funnel you can run. Okay. And this right here is the funnel that I'm running right now actively. And it works really, really well, because I just think that it's way cleaner and everything. So I basically have them watch the, you know, 5 to 10 minutes pre-call VSL essentially as well. Now, here's the thing, boys. Okay. You can either record this VSL here yourself, or you can pay UGC creator on Fiverr to do this for you. Okay. Now, chances are, if you personally don't, you know, look super good, or your accent is a bit shit, for example, then I'd highly recommend do what one of my mentees did here. I basically paid this UGC creator on Fiverr, which is obviously a bit hot here. Besides the point, okay, people are more attracted to people that looks good, essentially. Like, there's some psychology thing there. So definitely leverage that. Okay. If you guys' accent is a bit shit, you know, like if you, for example, target US people and they hear that your accent is like, you know, half-ish Norwegian, as with me, for example, then I definitely kind of do this. Okay. And the thing is, like, if you're targeting, for example, roofing companies, all right, that's going to be a lot of elderly men, for example. And obviously, when you put a good looking UGC creator here to record your entire pre-call VSL, your watch through rate on that VSL is gonna be sky high, right? It's gonna be like 99%, trust me. This is gonna help a lot with the watch through rate, and I just highly recommend you guys doing that, okay? Because it's literally gonna boost everything, and it's also gonna make your entire business look a bit more professional, because obviously she looks professional and everything. And yeah, back to the point. So that's like the step one. I have them watch this pre-call VSL thing. And then I'll also tell them this right here: confirm your spot on your calendar right here. Please make sure to respond to a text or email by replying with yes. And then I give them like a screenshot of how it looks like. And then they also get the option to click on this button right here, and it automatically adds the event to their Google Calendar, which is like a cheat code. And then I also dive into like frequently asked questions, okay? This right here is really important that you guys have, okay? Because these people are going to have a lot of questions, okay? So if you can basically, put all the transcripts of all the sales calls you've had in the last, like, 3, 4, 6 months or something into ChatGPT and make him analyze everything and give you the most frequently asked questions that all these people had, then you basically just create these short videos right here answering all of those questions, okay? Like, for example, how you get patients through the door. I've tried ads before and the leads were garbage. Then in this video, for example, you just position yourself as completely different. Your system is completely different than most of these new marketing agencies that's just trying to make some quick upfront catch and basically run away. That's not how we do it. Just position yourself completely differently. So create like 5 or 6 of these videos, really short ones, and basically answer most of the common questions or like frequently asked questions that your niche is going to have about your service. Then obviously you just dump all your client results here as well. Put a nice little Trustpilot badge there as well. You can also have the frequently asked questions as like text, but I'd recommend just having it as videos. It's most of the time the best. And yeah, then a little reminder as well that, if you no-show, then you won't be able to reschedule, okay? So that's like 2 different ways you can structure out the thank you pages, okay? And it works really well. Now, you guys should always be using Vistia to host your pre-call VSL here, simply because you can basically track the watch through rate and how many people have viewed it and, all the metrics that you need. So you basically know if this pre-call VSL is performing or not. With this one, it's probably going to be like extremely good. But in terms of the framework of this actual pre-call VSL, there's a few things that you guys should cover. Basically, firstly, the promise or hook right there, basically your background as well. And then I'd go into some qualifying, like who it's not for, some success stories, who it's for. And then I'd also position you as, not an agency, but growth partners or whatever you want to, whatever fancy terms you guys want to be using. And the outcome and benefits, and kind of just break down the system as well, like how it works, like a quick overview of it, and the guarantee you got, and the best case and worst case. But the truth is here about this VSL is that it's not really about what you say, okay? It's all about how you guys say it, okay? Because energy is literally everything here, okay? When you watch a video like this one, you're gonna feel a certain way, right? You're gonna feel like taking action, for example. And that's all because of the way I speak, right? If you speak with high energy, you're confident, you're certain and everything, then people are gonna feel that, and they're gonna feel like this guy is the right fit for me, right? Now, here as well, the key part of this entire funnel is, of course, the pre-call email and the text confirmations and basically the reminders, okay? So you guys should get the paid version of Calendly, of course, and always use the Calendly workflows, okay? I would not recommend using GHL simply because all the emails just go to trash most of the time, unless you're, using some third-party tool. So I personally just use Calendly for everything. It works like a charm. And yeah, let me basically just break down my entire kind of like Calendly sequence setup here, okay? So right after people book in, they get the email confirmation and a text confirmation and these and an email as well that includes my story and a case study of a client. So let me just show you guys the entire kind of like setup I got going on there as well. I'm just going to show you quickly and you guys can pause and read it yourself. I'm just find it here. So right after people book in here, they're going to receive this right here, email confirmation and my story. So kind of like the first email they're going to get is like the confirmation thing. your call is confirmed. Please watch this before we speak. Basically just make them watch that pre-call VSL, essentially always incentivizing that. And yeah, making sure they watch the pre-call VSL. And then I also tell them, that is really important. And if there's a business partner or spouse involved in any key decisions, make sure they're on the call too. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And for the other email, which basically covers my story and a client result, this one as well, you guys can pause it and basically read through it. Because here I basically just leverage a lot of like psychology things that my niche resonate with. And yeah, you guys can kind of just look through it. I was working a supermarket job and then I got a client, churned that client. I'd always recommend that you guys have something like this. Like, this isn't really true either, but if you guys just put some sort of thing in there where, you refunded a client or, something went completely wrong, they're more likely to actually trust you, okay? Because you're honest with them, all right? You tell them that, I had a client, nothing worked out, I refunded him, okay? Because obviously you're not going to have that on your funnel, right? You're not going to have that on your funnel. So they're going to be thinking like, how good is the success rate and all that stuff on this, And so if you just be honest with them and tell them something like this, although it might not even be true, then, they're just going to trust you way, way more as well, okay? And then I basically just dive a bit into the entire client interview type thing, and I link the interview I did as well with that client. So that's like the email confirmation and my story right there. And in terms of my text booking confirmation, it's pretty simple as well. We're kind of limited on how many characters you can have here on Calendly. But I basically just tell them to, watch the email with a few important things to check out. And I'd say the main thing about all of the reminders, text and email reminders here, is that you put in like emojis and you just be super fluent and basically write as if you're actually writing to them, although it's a fully automated system, okay? Because that's just gonna increase the likelihood of them believing that it's actually you texting them this, okay? It's gonna feel sort of personalized in a sense, okay? And here as well, this is super, super crucial as well. So this is like how I structure the entire thing on the actual calendar, on the Google Calendar. So when people book in, they're gonna see this right here on the calendar, okay? Action required, client, prospect name and my name. And then the description here as well is like fully custom, okay? So, hey, name, Steo here, please complete these steps before the call, accept the calendar invite and watch the video. Again, just constantly reminding them to watch that pre-call VSL, because I know if they watch that thing, then they're going to be pre-sold, right? No objections, no nothing. So the way you basically set this up, let me just show you that as well quickly. Go to the scheduling thing right here, click on the event thing you want to do, more options, and then you do notifications and workflows. And then where it says calendar invitation, this is essentially where you edit. And yeah, you basically can put whatever you want here, all right? But always like tailor it, right? So, hey, MIT first name, They'll also get this email from Google themselves, which says like actions required, and then they're gonna read all this, okay? So it just works really, really well. And 30 hours before the call as well, I send them a full in-depth email that's just covering like a client case study, okay? So let me just show you the copy of that one as well, right here. And yeah, I basically do this about 30 hours before the event, because most of the time when I get bookings from these cold SMS, speed to lead here is everything, all right? So I personally don't have my calendar any longer out than 4 or 5 days, I think. That's why I do 30 hours before. And I basically break down a case study right here from 0 to 60K profits in 45 days. And yeah, basically, it wasn't a luck, it wasn't a one-time fluke, it was a system, blah, 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 and go into the system a bit right here. And yeah, that's essentially like the entire sequence right there. And when you just constantly feed them with all these case studies and they see the results, then ultimately in their mind, they're going to feel like, fuck, this is a no-brainer decision, right? Like, they'll trust you a lot more. And they'll also see how confident you are that your system actually works, purely because you keep sending them case studies and case studies and case studies and all that stuff, okay? And here as well, for the 24 hours before the call, basically telling them, please watch this quick video before a call, nothing crazy there. And then about 1 hour before the call, I send them an email and a text, which has like Calendly's reconfirm booking type thing. Basically, they have to press a button to basically confirm that they're going to show up. Okay, so let me just show you kind of how it looks like. So send text right here, and this again, mind the copy, super fluent. Okay, better degree, there's nothing worse than no shows. Emoji, could you confirm meeting below? You'd make my day. Confirm here, confirmation link. All right, the way you do this is basically hitting variables and then choosing like the confirmation type thing there. Okay, and I basically do the same for email. Super simple. I send that about 64 minutes as well before the call, just to make it look like, you know, it's actually me sending them these messages. It's not automated, okay? And then 10 minutes before the call as well, I'll just tell them, look, we're speaking in 10 minutes. See you soon. So that's essentially the entire system right here, boys. Now you basically know the entire SMS thing and how I run it up and literally everything here. And yeah, go create the funnel in GHL for yourself, you know, create all these videos. Go get yourself a nice UGC creator on Fiverr, put it on the thank you page. And yeah, boys, the watch through rate, the booking rate, the closing rate, everything will skyrocket. All right. So yeah, boys, that was pretty much it for this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and, you know, DM me on IG if you have any questions whatsoever about this as well. More than happy to help out. And yeah, boys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.